Whether it's reaching for our phones to scroll through Instagram every 5 minutes or face planting into a KFC family bucket every time we have a bad day, there's a reason we continue these behaviors even when we know they're not helpful. We get a nice big hit of dopamine. Here's what's happening in the brain when we engage in a rewarding behavior. Neurons located in the habit formation region fire at the beginning of the behavior, subside while the behavior occurs, and then fire once again when the behavior is finished. Over time, patterns begin to form, both in behavior and in the brain physically. In essence, these changes become hardwired through neuroplasticity. This can make it extremely difficult to break an unhelpful habit that we've already formed in the past. So I've conducted a lot of 30-day deprivation experiments on my YouTube channel, and I've learned firsthand just how difficult it is to break habits once they've taken root over years. Between quitting social media, caffeine, and sugar, there were times when I felt like the absence of these habits was physically debilitating. When I quit caffeine, I found it impossible to concentrate, and I had a constant headache. With no sugar, I had this craving that distracted me from my work all day. When it comes to chasing pleasure and avoiding pain, these impulses were colliding at me and telling me, eat something sweet already, drink a freaking cup of coffee, check Instagram for God's sake. But even as those physical reactions faded, I noticed the deeply rooted discomfort that deprivation can sometimes bring. It's a more heightened sense of discomfort because we're losing something that once brought us comfort. It's basically a double whammy of discomfort, which by the way was also the name of my heavy metal band back in high school. According to an MIT study, old habits don't simply die, they become dormant. Researcher Anne Graybiel says, somehow the brain retains a memory of the habit context, and this pattern can be triggered if the right habit cues come back. This situation is familiar to anybody who's tried to lose weight by cutting back on sugar. Just the sight of a piece of chocolate can sometimes reset all of those good intentions.
It's my favorite.
But just because breaking an existing habit is difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. Far from it. It just requires a little bit extra elbow grease and to set up our schedule, mindset, and environment for success. To help us break unhelpful habits, we can invert James Clear's 4 laws of behavior change. So instead of obvious, we'll make it invisible. Instead of attractive, we'll make it unattractive. Instead of easy, we'll make it difficult. And instead of satisfying, we'll make it unsatisfying. So let's say that you're trying to spend less time scrolling on social media. The process you follow might look like this. Make your cue invisible. For this one, you might want to leave your phone in another room, or better yet, get your partner or roommate to hide it for you. Out of sight, out of mind. Then, make your craving unattractive. You could put your phone on grayscale to take away some of the joy of scrolling. A few minutes on Instagram might not feel as attractive in black and white. Then you want to make your response difficult. Hide your social media apps in a folder that's slightly annoying to get to. And lastly, make your reward unsatisfying. This one is a little bit tricky to implement, but it could be installing an app like Forest. Every time you check a specified app, your virtual tree inside Forest dies a little bit. Now that's sad. By adding extra resistance at each of these stages, you'll slowly begin to break free from your unhelpful habits. Head back to exercise 7 in your workbook to start dismantling the habit loop for your less than helpful habits.